The Ukrainian refugee crisis erupted on February 24, 2022, when Russian artillery pounded Kyiv suburbs, and within hours, the first families crossed into Poland at Medyka, launching Europe's largest human exodus since 1945. By week's end, 1.2 million had fled. By April, over 5 million, and by late 2025, UNHCR registered 8.3 million displaced abroad, with 6.7 million more internally displaced inside Ukraine. The scale overwhelmed borders, train stations, and reception centers, yet triggered an unprecedented wave of continental solidarity that rewrote migration policy and reshaped demographics from Warsaw to Lisbon. The first surge hit Poland like a tidal wave. On March 1st, Medyka processed 120,000 people in 24 hours. Mothers with toddlers, elderly on stretchers, pets in carriers. Polish border guards, expecting a trickle, distributed tea in sub-zero cold, while Kraków volunteers arrived with diapers and formula. Warsaw's central railway station became a refugee hub. Platforms filled with cots, charging stations, translation booths. Residents left strollers at entrances with notes, "Take what you need." By summer, Poland absorbed 3.7 million Ukrainians, 10% of its population, transforming cities overnight. The EU activated the Temporary Protection Directive for the first time on March 4th, granting immediate residency, work rights, healthcare, and schooling for up to 3 years without asylum delays. Germany opened its job market, France chartered high-speed trains from Poland, Spain offered language courses and housing vouchers. Yet speed exposed cracks. Berlin's offices ran out of forms, Dublin's hostels overflowed, rural Hungary housed thousands in gymnasiums. The EU allocated 3.5 billion in emergency funds, but local governments covered 60% through municipal budgets and donations. Poland's response became a case study in grassroots mobilization. Krakow's Jewish Community Center converted its banquet hall into a 24-hour shelter. Ukrainian-speaking psychologists offered trauma counseling. Grandmothers knitted scarves. In Warsaw, the city turned an abandoned mall into Ukrainian village, with playgrounds, clinics, and a job fair, placing 12,000 refugees in factories within a month. Supermarkets donated bread. Tech startups built host-matching apps. Football clubs opened stadiums. The government issued PESEL numbers to 1.4 million by June, enabling bank accounts, salaries, and school enrollment in a day. Germany absorbed the second-largest wave, peaking at 1.1 million by late 2023. The Bundesagentur für Arbeit fast-tracked work permits. Ukrainian doctors retrained in 6-month programs. Nurses filled hospital vacancies. Berlin's Tempelhof Airport reopened as a 4,000-bed reception center. Yet challenges emerged. Language barriers delayed jobs. Cultural differences sparked tensions. A viral video from Saxony showed a Ukrainian mother confronting a landlord refusing Eastern Europeans, only for neighbors to pool funds and buy the apartment for her family. The crisis strained education systems. Poland enrolled 700,000 Ukrainian children, hiring 20,000 new teachers and adding Ukrainian language classes. Germany created welcome classes in 16,000 schools. The Netherlands printed bilingual textbooks overnight. In Romania, Suceava converted a Soviet-era dormitory into a boarding school for 800 Kharkiv orphans. Teachers reported flashbacks during air raid drills and separation anxiety, but also resilience. A 12-year-old from Mariupol won a Warsaw Spelling Bee after 4 months of Polish study. Healthcare systems buckled. Ukrainian women gave birth in Polish wards at triple pre-war rates. Oncologists continued chemotherapy for evacuated patients. Mental health services prioritized trauma. The EU funded 5,000 therapists, yet waiting lists hit 6 months. In Lisbon, a Ukrainian psychiatrist opened a free clinic in a former convent, treating 200 weekly via Zoom. Pharmacies faced insulin and thyroid medication shortages as refugees arrived with unmanaged conditions. Economic impacts rippled widely. Refugees filled labor shortages in agriculture, construction, and hospitality. Poland's GDP grew 1.8% in 2023 from refugee spending and employment. Germany's construction sector hired 120,000 Ukrainians within a year, yet wage suppression sparked backlash. Polish truck drivers protested competition from colleagues earning $800 monthly. Governments responded with minimum wage protections and training programs. Housing was the toughest challenge. Warsaw rents surged 40%. Berlin shelters reported families in cars. Solutions proliferated. Modular homes in Estonia, converted offices in Prague, a Dutch cruise ship in Amsterdam. Wealthy diaspora bought Kraków apartment blocks, renting at subsidized rates. The EU launched a $17 billion fund to build 200,000 units by 2027, prioritizing host regions. Children's stories humanize the crisis. A 6-year-old from Buca arrived in Italy clutching a drawing of his bombed kindergarten. Milan classmates fundraised to rebuild it. Teens in Sweden formed Sirens of Kiev, performing benefit concerts. UK Ukrainian scouts won a national jamboree with a drone first aid project. Social media amplified these tales, sustaining support despite compassion fatigue. The crisis reshaped politics. Poland's ruling party boosted ratings, Germany's Greens championed integration, far-right parties in France and Hungary opposed open borders, but backtracked as polls showed 70% support for Ukrainians. The deserving versus undeserving migrant debate fueled hypocrisy accusations, yet leaders renewed the directive in 2024 and 2025. Remittances became Ukraine's lifeline. Refugees sent $18 billion home in 2023. More than all Western military aid that year, a Kyiv IT specialist in Lisbon supported parents in occupied Kherson, a Lviv teacher, tutoring online, funded her brother's evacuation. These flows sustained communities under occupation, buying generators, medicine, and satellite internet. Cultural integration unfolded creatively. Ukrainian restaurants introduced borscht continent-wide. Kiev's National Opera performed in Warsaw to ovations. Bookstores stocked translated literature. Netflix commissioned Exodus series. Eurovision 2024 in Liverpool featured a Ukrainian folk symphony medley that moved audiences to tears. The crisis exposed EU coordination flaws. Wealthier nations like Sweden absorbed fewer per capita than Poland or Moldova, prompting burden-sharing accusations. The Commission proposed a permanent resettlement mechanism in 2025, with quotas by GDP and population. Eastern states demanded infrastructure compensation. Western members promised post-war reconstruction aid. Moldova, Europe's poorest nation, hosted 120,000, highest per capita globally. Chisinau's bus station ran 24/7. Families took in strangers despite one-bedroom homes. Fearing Russian destabilization, the government requested NATO patrols along Transnistria. The EU gave $1 billion in budget support, averting collapse. Returns began mid-2023. Liberated Kherson and Kharkiv saw families trickle back, facing destroyed homes and mines. Poland launched safe return buses with demining escorts. Germany offered reconstruction grants. Yet, 40% surveyed in 2025 planned permanent relocation, citing children's opportunities. Dual citizenship debates emerged, with Poland proposing fast-track naturalization after 5 years. The crisis transformed demographics. Poland's fertility rate rose as Ukrainian mothers gave birth abroad. Germany's Ukrainian community outpaced Turkish immigration. Wrocław reported Ukrainian as the second most spoken school language. Festivals, Wyszywanka Day in Lisbon, Malanka in Dublin, became annual. Environmental impacts emerged. Refugee hosting raised Poland's winter energy use 15%. Waste systems collapsed under aid packaging. Yet, Ukrainian agronomists introduced drought-resistant crops in Spain. Sumi beekeepers revived French apiaries. The EU allocated $500 million for green reconstruction, training refugees as solar installers. The Ukrainian refugee crisis proved Europe's compassion under pressure. It exposed bureaucracy, inequality, and integration hurdles, yet revealed generosity transcending politics. Volunteers became heroes, children embodied resilience, communities absorbed millions without collapse. Born of war's cruelty, the exodus planted renewal across a continent scarred by displacement. As one Warsaw teacher said, "We welcomed guests, but they became neighbors, colleagues, family." The crisis did not just strain Europe, it remade it.